Well, welcome to another episode of the Relief Podcast. Today, my guest is Kip Knippel. Kip, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So, a little bit more about Kip because I done some preparation. I printed out a lot of notes from you. I was really impressed. I thought you were just a guy who likes to smile, but and likes to work out and look his best and all that good stuff. I didn't know that you've created a great company where you've helped a lot of people place in the executive ranks.
yeah,
What's
yeah.
it,
It's
what's it like to work with high performers?
I love it. I mean, it's energizing. Um, it's fun to work with people that are trying to grow things and do good and like personally grow themselves, but grow companies and just trying to put good in the world. It's energizing. That's just kind of how I'm wired, and it feels good. It's like being an RTA. To be surrounded by people like that is it's fantastic.
Cool. Well, and I respect you because I think you're outgoing and you have a positive nature. And one thing that I guess when you look at the upper ranks is a sense of inner peace, right? And like and discernment. Like talk about some of the key attributes that employers or candidates need to have when they're trying to climb into the C-suite.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the inner peace thing and just that internal confidence that you have the requisite skills and expertise, and that and kind of that entrepreneurial mindset. Even if you're within a company, that you're looking for problems, and if you find a problem you don't know the answer, you will figure it out. You'll find the right who's to figure it out rather than trying to figure out how to do it yourself. So there's a level of humility and just not thinking that you know it all, but you believe in yourself that you can figure it out and you can find the right people to help support you. And you just think about people that are just curious and inquisitive and just constantly want to learn and grow, and kind of those lifelong learners that are never satisfied with what they already know. And another one is people that listen. They don't need to talk all the time, and they realize that the only way to learn about something or about other people is to actually listen. You already know everything about yourself, and you know the things that you already know intellectually. So the only way to learn new things is to study and read, but also to listen to others.
No, absolutely. And listening is a skill, right? I mean, we're learning it from our teachers, and I think it's about having clear communication path, right? Imagine if you have a leader of a company and they want to issue strategy, they better have a clear message.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, communication is huge. You need to be able to articulate both verbally and in the written word what is your vision, and how are we going to get there? What are the strategies? What are the tactics? How are we going to make it happen?
No, I imagine. And then, one of your core values, that one of the guiding truths that you lead your company with is pursuing excellence and exceeding expectations.
Hmm.
So, and leaning into that, you are the who, right? A lot of people don't when they're trying to replace a COO who might be retiring or may not be a right fit for the company. They can't stop running a company to find the right person. So that's when they engage with the best, and you're leading the charge, and given not just that, like I said, that you're in this business, but you have a series of long testimonials, which we'll go into one later. But tell me about what that's like when someone reaches out to you. What's that process to understand their needs and serve them where they are?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, usually after they've decided to engage our firm, we start with what we call a kickoff call, but others might call it a discovery call or meeting or uh, Zoom. But really, where we have a whole litany of questions we go through with every new client to really understand their business, their culture, their core values, what's the story we want to take to the market to get people excited about the organization and also about the role. And then, what are the must-haves, what are the nice-to-haves for whatever the role is that we're working on. But really kind of do all that front-end due diligence to really understand the business, understand the role we're working on. But starting with culture and core values and really making sure we understand that so that we can in turn create the story that we're going to share to the market about our client and what it's like to be there. And frankly, that's the best and the biggest selling point for opportunities, especially in this competitive world we're in now. To be able to clearly articulate what is your culture, what are your core values, so that we can go out and find people, that sync with those core values and want that type of culture, so that it's just an amazing fit. Because there's a million people that can do the job and have the requisite skills and expertise and intellect, but it's so critical to find that culture fit and core value fit.
No, absolutely. And you have to remember that, the companies that we look up to, that we read about, in Inc. magazine, Fortune, Forbes, you name the list of magazines and publications that we read growing up. They each had a culture, right? And then sometimes you had like a revolving door of leadership in some companies because the leader didn't vibe with the culture, right? So what kind of qualifying questions would you ask somebody before entering a role that you might be like let's say you're hired to search for a CFO. Like what's a key question that you might want to ask somebody before entering that, not even the opportunity, but you got to bring the best candidate to the plate, right? You're basically the coach, right? And you're advising people to be their best for their interview, I imagine. And what do people need to do to either prepare themselves or be ready to answer immediately?
Yeah, no, excellent. One nice thing about our process at our firm, uh, that initially candidates are a little weary of, but it works really well, is we have a candidate questionnaire that they fill out as part of the process. So they can, we have again, a number of questions we go through with them to understand their background, their experience, but also that culture piece, the core value piece, but that they can spend some time and really think through their answers, in draft and paragraph and in narrative form, and really write some thought out answers to some of these questions rather than, as a traditional executive search firm might do, where they just, as if we were in an interview right now and just posing the question to you and you just got to think, off the top of your head and think on your feet. There's a time and a place for that, but when you really want to delve in, they like, and this questionnaire is pretty extensive. I mean, it's a real commitment. It takes time for them to complete, but it allows them to give thought out answers and also illustrate the way that they can communicate in written form, to deep probing questions. But to be able to spend time doing that rather than just trying to think on their feet. And so they really do appreciate that, and it's super helpful. And frankly, it helps in the vetting process, in that you have to be a serious candidate for this role, or you're not going to go through the whole process, including that candidate questionnaire piece. So it's a very good vetting tool too. And in fact, we did a search not too long ago for a chief human resources officer for a tech company, and she said, in all of her years, I think she'd been a CHRO or in HR working her way up for 20 plus years. And she said in all her years, she'd never seen a questionnaire like that. And she said, if you're not already doing that, like, you should use that as a selling piece, as you're marketing your firm and trying to win new business. Because I have not experienced that before. And I really, as a candidate, she was a candidate in that case, appreciate it, appreciate the opportunity to tell my story in a thoughtful way. And she said, putting myself in the other seat, if I was the CHRO on this role, I mean, that's invaluable to give deep insights into the candidates that I'm considering, and really understanding who they are, as a whole person before I even decide to interview them.
Wow. No, yeah, because your firm is the way you earn revenue is bringing the talent. You're a talent
Right.
scout, you know, and then you're helping people kind of move to a new career if they're not happy in the sandbox they're in currently.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and I would say most of the people we ultimately place, we are doing a fabulous job where they're already at. They love their job. They're knocking it out of the park, but we just come along with a better opportunity for one reason or another. Different things motivate different people. And then that's why they make the move to our client. Um, so, I mean, and that's really how you get the best candidates. It's not people that are dissatisfied or disgruntled or looking for a new job. It's the people that are just absolute rock stars where they already are, and aren't even, their heads down, uh, doing their work and doing a great job. But, we just come along with, again, a better opportunity for one reason or another. And that's why they make the move.
I mean, you're selling the dream, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're taking someone who's really happy and you say, oh, they built themselves into a role that might have taken years to get into. And you say, here's a shiny object, maybe a step up or a lateral move at a bigger company for a much larger compensation package, right? And so people have to be practically minded when they weigh their career decisions because there could be a downside to a move as well. Speak to that,
Absolutely.
that if people are too impulsive or quick with making a job change, like, what could be the downside of that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And we always say we're trying to help our client organizations, but also candidates, people create abundance and impact. So we want to allow the candidates to, like, even if it's not for more money necessarily, but grow in their career, have more fulfillment, more impact, work in the passion industry or sector that they're most excited about. And ultimately, impacts their families. And it's not just that one person that's impacted by a career change.
And then, so, and then, in this career change, like when you go about attracting top talent, what's your, you know, you don't have to tell me the whole A to Z, but like, give me something of what stands out for an A player, like when you're trying to recruit the best of the best.
Yeah, no, very, very good questions. I mean, it depends and it varies, but I think as we touched on early, I mean, it's people that have that humble confidence. Like they're confident in who they are and what they can do, but they have the humility to know they don't know it all, but that they can figure it out. And they just have the drive that they will do whatever it takes to make sure, again, legally, morally, ethically doing the right thing, but whatever it takes, effort wise and to make sure they get the result. And they're motivated by growth and just an impact and, like, creating something out of nothing or, taking something and 10xing or 100xing it. I mean, those are the best of the best. And they're typically the nicest people, the most friendly, the most down to earth. Uh, they're not arrogant. They're just confident. Um, and they're usually the people that ask the most questions and often talk the least.
Well, that's my point here on the podcast is try to just ask a nice, insightful question and just let you roll with it. So, so
You're
I
doing
love.
very well.
Thanks. Well, that's it's something I admire um, among like a strong leader because you have to remember like the leaders basically running a ship like a cruise liner in a dangerous ocean, right? And especially this year, right? Companies need strong leadership. So, um, tell me more about sometimes how you assess or an employer or even a board of directors when hiring a CEO would look at in terms of a fit, like if someone's a fit for the team before.
Yeah, I mean, we usually kind of develop that criteria from the beginning, but again, for those super high level roles, we want to make sure they have a chance to meet, the others on the C-suite that they're going to work with, meet the board, meet the team, if chief operating officer, meet the operations team. So you're looking at people that are, on the map of the company, people that are above them and below them, people on the same level, so you can get that 360 view. Again, culture fit wise, personality wise, we typically try to, when we present our candidates, they're all amazing fits. They would all do a great job. And again, they have the candidate questionnaire that they can look through before they even interview them. So that the interview process really for the client company is who really is the best culture fit, the right personality fit for who they're going to work with, or the person that has the ability, you talked about a CFO before, to take us from where we're at, to where we want to go, and who has the vision to help make that happen. So it's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of, on our part as well as our clients' part, and boards, asking good questions and then listening and letting people talk and share and cast their own personal visions for their career. And, what kind of impact does this executive candidate want to make in life at this company? What value do they think they can bring, right off the bat, and a year down the road, 2 years down the road, what's the value and impact they think they can bring, and what's their vision looking from the outside of where the company's at and where it could be and how they could fit into that to realize that vision and make it happen.
Wow. So it's more like I guess like a dating process, right? You want to have a few meals together off site. You want to kind of see if you gel, and then see if it feels right. Because sometimes a lot of the qualities are on paper, and a lot of times they're intuitive.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's tons of assessments. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, like analytically. Um, but ultimately, you know, you just hear about people giving examples of, how does someone, you know, treat the person at a reception at the office when they come in for interviews. If you take them out to dinner, I mean, how do they treat, the wait staff and the other people that they interact with? And as a candidate, I mean, you need to pay attention to that stuff and how you treat people. And you want to be honest and authentic and be who you are. But um, typically the A players treat everybody well. And, kind of going on a little bit of a tangent. I mean, A players hire A players, and B players typically hire C players. A great CEO wants to hire people and surround him or herself with people that are better than they are, smarter than they are, and they're not threatened by that. And these A player executive candidates are the same way. They're not threatened by the success or the intelligence or the experience of other people. They love that and want to be surrounded by people that know way more than they do, have much more experience, so they can grow personally, but also that's how you grow an organization and have success and make impact, by surrounding yourself with people that are better at all the different skill sets and areas than you are. That's what a true leader does, as you know.
well, yeah, it's like assembling your round table for success.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so, to add to that, talk about so when that A player is found, when it's the right fit and you want to bring them in, talk about how the right way of onboarding an A player so that they can be successfully integrated into the operation.
Excellent questions. Yeah. I think you want to give them the opportunity to, especially if they're replacing an existing executive, say a CFO, let the two of them overlap for a period of time, so they can, spend the first, however much time it is, just observing the culture, observing the business, just looking at how things are done currently, and having a good feel for, what is the culture here, what are the core values, how is business being done in whatever my specific subject matter is, as well as outside of those areas, looking at the business as a whole, but just having a good amount of time to really observe and take in the business now before I come in and try to make changes or try to make impact. That's probably the best way. And, expose them to as many different areas of the business, as many different leaders within the business, and really allow them to spend time and ask questions and thoroughly understand, what are the different steps of, our manufacturing process, as an example, and how does our sales team work and our marketing team, and how do those two interact with each other, and just, again, these are kind of for the highest level leaders, so they really have a feel for how are things operating and connecting currently, so that they can then make informed decisions on, okay, where do we see the opportunities to improve things or change things. And that's, I think, pretty consistently across the board. Again, for high level executive leaders, that's the best way to start that onboarding process, is to let them observe and ask a lot of questions and really evaluate things before starting to take action. And I think most A players want to do that. They don't want to come in, and they wouldn't come in just trying to implement things, or, here's what we did at our last organization. I mean, everything's new. This is a new company, a new opportunity, new people you're working with, and you want to spend a good time doing your due diligence to really understand where are we now, and then also where do we want to go? What is the vision? What is the strategy for where we want to go, so that I can help make that happen and realize it.
Wow. I mean, and then you get to be a part of that. Like you're basically, supplying the missing Lego pieces to a lot of companies in their organization, and, a lot of times it's a replacement position. It's not sometimes it's not a growth position,
Mm-hmm.
because, sometimes the executive of the last 5 years doesn't evolve, right? I mean, talk about, like you just mentioned, continuous improvement. What are some type of training resources that you'd recommend executives look into, so that they stay sharp with their skill set?
Another great question. There's again, CFOs. There's CFO organizations that they can join to be with other CFOs. Kind of for that particular position, and also, different industries have different groups to be a part of. So, it's helpful for CFOs to be with other CFOs of companies, and in a safe, confidential space, talk about the issues that they're facing. Those are the best. Just those peer groups. Again, CEO roundtables. There's many different opportunities there. But to be with people that maybe are in your same industry or other industries, where you can talk in a confidential, safe space, to talk about best practices or issues, or solutions to problems. I mean, those are typically the best. And there's formal executive training programs. That's more for up and comers, that people put through leadership development training, rather than the people that are already up there. Then it's much more about peer groups, again, within industry or in other industries, so that you can really, again, I keep saying, in a confidential, safe space, be open and authentic and honest, to share what you're facing and hear what other people are facing, and try to help each other come up with the right solution.
Yeah, that's a real cohesive environment, I guess. Conducive to, like, a lot of the environments we're in, where iron sharpens iron, and we want each other to win. Your win doesn't take anything away from me, and my win takes nothing away from you. Um, so, like, adding to that, what there's a lot of companies that do what you do, right? What sets you, not just KIP, apart, but your process apart from some of the larger companies that maybe don't have as much of a human touch?
That's a fabulous question. Uh, I would say most of the larger companies, it's very different. It's much more of a volume business. Uh, say yes to every single executive search, and I think the industry average is somewhere in the 30 to 40% success rate, whereas ours is 100%. Because for them it's volume, and if they hit a certain number of volume, they hit the revenue goals that they want, and Whereas for us, it's much brand and reputation, making sure we deliver for our clients. Like that is our number one priority. So again, in the larger organizations, typically it's set up where it's some sort of senior salesperson that wins the business, and then they hand it off to a junior recruiter, typically someone fresh out of college. Nowadays, people that are in other countries that actually do the recruiting, and then the account manager will come in and when they're presenting candidates or at different touch points, but it's really some young person really doing the work, and it's kind of these senior people that are managing the relationship, and so a lot, as you can imagine, gets lost in translation. Whereas again, with our process, it is the same person from the very beginning, kicking off the search, doing all the research, all the conversations with the candidates, presenting the candidates, facilitating the interview process. Nothing is ever lost in translation. I don't think any large search firms, have the recruiter, even though it is a junior recruiter, actually do their own research. They outsource that too. And we've just found internally, talking with our team, I mean, they love, because when you do that kickoff, you really understand the client as you're looking at candidates and doing your research and thinking through people. I mean, you just know intuitively who's going to fit personality wise and culture fit wise and core value wise with your client, while you're looking at the skill sets. And there's no way to translate that again in these large organizations, to the recruiter, to the researcher, back to the recruiter, to the account manager. And there's no single point of contact. I mean, it's like anybody. It's like, going to the DMV to get your driver's license, or, calling customer service at a giant company and you get a recording. And if you actually get a person, they can't really help you. There's just such a difference in dealing with those organizations versus something like us. And I remember our very first search that I did a while ago. It was for the CEO of a bank out in Beverly Hills, actually president, and it was me versus Spencer Stewart, which is a large firm, and they ultimately chose me. And I said, why? I said, after we won the search, I'm like, why did you choose me? Why did you choose us? And they said, a couple of things. One, you're honest and authentic, and we trusted you. But to Spencer Stewart, this search meant about that much, and to you, it meant this much. And that's another piece too. I mean, it's these large organizations, and they and I hear this time and time again now over the years, where a company has used one of these large search firms, and they've just been so disappointed. And they used them because it was the safe choice. Nobody gets fired by hiring the biggest organization, but the quality of results is just, it's not the same. And we do a lot of work in our firm for private equity companies and their portfolio companies. And I think that industry in particular has wised up that we want to work with boutique executive search firms, because that's where we get the results, and we need to deliver the right people for our organizations to help grow them, especially with PE-backed companies where they really want to grow. And we can't rely on one of these large organizations that might take a year to do a search, and then we have to get rid of the person after a month. So it's just kind of that super high touch, hands-on thing that you get with boutique search firms. And then for us, example, I mean, for this year, our theme, and you'll probably resonate with this, is unreasonable recruiting. Like that is what we are delivering. And so we want to look at every single touch point we have with a client and with the candidate, and try to elevate all those touch points and deliver unreasonable service to our clients and to our candidates. Even though our clients are technically our client and that's who pays our fee, but we want to treat candidates the same way. Especially in this industry, candidates and people are typically treated terribly. And it's shocking how, if you move in one direction and away from another individual, how people just ghost them. Companies do that, executive search firms do that, and just never give them any sort of update. especially when they've moved on to focusing on other candidates. So we try to always treat people as humans. But anyway, unreasonable recruiting is what we're
Yeah.
trying to do this year, and just elevate all those touch points and just really focus on how do we make people feel when they deal with KIP Search? How do we make our clients, and the people at those organizations and the candidates, how do we make them feel and elevate all those touch points and elevate, the positivity that they feel when they deal with anybody at KIP Search. That's our number one focus this year, is really trying to deliver unreasonable recruiting. And that's
Right.
something to get excited about and fired up about and
Yeah.
passionate about, and that our clients and our candidates can feel that.
There's a lot of excitement. So let's say, as you mentioned earlier, people are kind of ghosted, right? Let's say, on a lower level, people apply for a job on Career Builder, Monster, don't get a response. Maybe you're just not the right fit. But when you're at your level, right, when there's 5 candidates for one position and you weren't chosen, you weren't given the rose,
Uh-huh.
you won't advance to the next level. How do you go about delivering the news in a way that's constructive, truthful, and maybe kind of provides a framework for a lesson for success on the next interview?
Yeah, I mean, we try to, you know, when our client says, we want to focus on this person or these two, and these four as an example, I think we're going to move away from. We try to find out from the client, why. Is there anything we can share? Because we want to give any sort of feedback we can to candidates. And then we try to have an actual conversation with them live on the telephone or over Zoom, and share whatever. I mean, number one, deliver the bad news. Uh, Try to tell them why, and share any feedback we can from the client. And sometimes the feedback is, and this is very often, especially when it gets down to the finalists, the for no specific reason, they just felt that John Smith or Sally Sue was the right fit. And we try to create this for all our clients. It was so hard to decide between the two of you that they just had to make a decision. And unfortunately, there's no real feedback or anything you could have done better. They had to make a decision, and they went with their gut, or one person was leaning a little bit towards this other person. And the beauty of what we do, where it's higher level roles, and I cannot believe other search firms don't understand this. I mean, ultimately, one person is going to be hired, but all these other people that were in the process are high level, top executives, A players that may be a good fit for something else. They may in turn hire us to do a search for their organization. I mean, we want to make the process so extraordinarily good that all the candidates that went through that weren't selected think, well, geez, KIP Search, that process was incredible. I've never experienced anything like that before. Hey, we need a new CFO. I'm going to engage them. Or we need a new, chief human resources officer. I mean, the best business development for us is delivering an amazing process for every candidate that comes through a search. Uh, and a lot of search firms just don't realize that, probably because, especially the larger ones, it's a junior recruiter, again, fresh out of college or in another country, that it's just not even on their radar. They're just trying to do a job, as opposed to, again, try to create abundance and impact, which is what we're trying to
I mean, it's your name on the door.
do.
I mean, literally. You know what I mean? Like, you can't hide.
Right.
You can't hide. You can't be like, "Oh, sorry, we messed up.
Yeah.
We're just gonna change our name." Well, that's your name. You were
Right.
born with it.
That's
It's
true.
what you stand behind, right? It's what stands behind you right now.
Yeah.
And talk more like let's say in private equity, for instance, right? They buy companies all the time, right? And they see ineffective leaders, and sometimes you see they just kind of do like a deck chairs on the Titanic. This one executive didn't work out at company A, so we'll move him to company B, and maybe it'll work out. And but they don't understand, let's say, the way you would, because you might be like this. You're this expert soundboard, who's placed they said I imagine over 100 executives, if not more. Would that be a conservative estimate that you've placed at least 100 executives over your career?
Oh yeah, way more than that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
maybe it's over 1,000, but you know what I'm saying? I don't want to shoot for the,
yeah. So I've been doing this for a little over 10 years. So yes, lots and lots of people.
wow. I mean, that's amazing. And, you know, you're part of everyone's career. So now you build the Rolodex, because I can imagine that maybe one day the person you place is calling you looking to hire somebody.
Absolutely,
How does that feel? And then what's that like to
it
serve
feels
that person?
amazing. I mean, it's yeah. We try to follow up with our candidates, after they've been placed, and over time. And the truth is, it's like any business. I mean, you become friends with these people. I mean, they're not just clients, they're not just candidates. They become your friends, and you build a relationship with them. And so, yeah, I mean, I mean, the first time that happened, I mean, it was fantastic, and many times since. I mean, that's how you know you did a good job. Really, how you know you did a good job is when it's someone that didn't get the job, and then they reach out and hire you to do a search for them, especially when it was a difficult and they felt really bad about not getting that CEO role or CFO role or whatever it is. And you didn't really have good feedback for them. Not they had bad feedback, but you didn't have anything specific. And it was just a tough one to deliver the bad news. And then when they reach out to engage us, I mean, those are the ones that really feel good.
Wow. I mean, that's awesome and inspiring in so many ways that you get to drive performance in multiple like channels. It's like you're a farmer, right? And you're planting trees, and you're like, oh wait, I know that one day this is going to bear fruit because this guy has a 3-year rollout plan, and he might need to hire 5 executives, right? And who's he going to call first? Is you. You still
Yeah.
have to deliver, right?
Right.
But you at least get invited to step up to the plate.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know,
We just want to go so far above and beyond just recruiting. We're just trying to add value to our clients and add value to the candidates. And it's like you said, it's being a farmer, not like a hunter. We're not transactional. We're trying to build long-term trusting relationships, and we're trying to have the relationship where our clients think of us as a trusted advisor, and they reach out not even for a search, but just trusted advisor types of questions and advice and counsel. Uh, Especially when we're working with a large organization and they refer to us as a vendor, I'm like, yeah, no, like that's not us. That's not the relationship we want. We really want to be that trusted advisor. We want to deliver the value to you so you feel that we're a trusted advisor, um, and really focus on just adding as much value as we possibly can, and not in a selfish way, but in a way that we're just trying to make a positive impact on our client companies, and again with people as candidates.
it's a collaborative partnership that you're forming,
Right.
and like I said, you're not a PO. You're not a vendor. You're not some person who just goes down to AP and collects your check. You're not providing paper. You're helping them make more paper, right? Currency, real currency through relationships. Because the people's stock price and people's pension funds depend on having good leaders in place, right? It's not just
Right.
one executive who makes an extra few million a year. That's looking, that single focus is not, it's not the full picture. It's only a small drop in the ocean. um,
Uh-huh.
when that leader delivers a annual message that rings true, and you might have put that person in that seat, or at least put some people around them that bring them to their greatness, like that must just tell you that your career path is a real calling, because you went to law school, right? And a lot of people go
Uh-huh.
to law school too. And I went years. I was accepted, didn't go. Long story, but I went years ago to my cousin's law school graduation, and the person who won the award first made a joke before even continuing. Said, "Mom, Dad, I got my law school diploma. Now I'm going to be a fireman." So so you kind of had your fireman moment too, right?
Yeah.
Because you could have stayed on that path, but like, what was that moment? What was that moment that kind of snapped into your mind? Like, this is where I want to go with my life?
Yeah, so out of law school, I did worked at a firm. I did like corporate mergers and acquisitions and commercial real estate law. So buying and selling companies, buying and selling real estate, and I mean, I liked it. Um, I really did like it, but the things that I liked the most were actually putting the deals together, and I like doing business development and generating new clients. And I talked with the managing partner of our firm, the head of our real estate practice, who was a good friend, and they both said, we've been practicing for 20 years, 25 years, and we don't really get to put the deals together. Every once in a while we do, but really the decision makers have done that. And they come to us at the firm and say, draft these documents to make the closing happen or solve these problems as we're headed to closing. But very rarely do we actually get to put the deals together. So I just started talking to some other mentors and people, and I like the real estate stuff, and ended up going to CB Richard Ellis, which is a large commercial real estate company, and I was in what we called at CB then Global Corporate Services, but essentially that meant representing users of real estate, so mostly negotiating leases or buying and selling buildings. If they owned the buildings for their own operations, not to be a landlord, not to be an investor. And I loved it. So, I mean, that was just doing nothing but deals. I mean, and it was, while we were part of CB, it was relatively entrepreneurial because it's 100% commission. But, you're still in a large organization. And then I met some people in the executive search business just to refer business back and forth. And as it turns out, after a little bit of time, they started to recruit me. And so they recruited me for about a year to come join them. And then I finally did. And at that point, while CB was still, entrepreneurial, there was just more and more kind of corporateness, and that, meetings and meetings and meetings for things which were valid, but it just got to get a little bit more corporate. And I said yes. And so I joined this search firm, and just initially just turned to my existing real estate clients. Instead of doing real estate, I started doing executive search locally and around the country. And it was like a light bulb moment. I mean, the conversations with the same exact people were so different. It was so much less formal and stiff and much more personal. And part of it might be that these people already knew me and trusted me, but it was different than negotiating on a 15-year lease or selling a $20 million building. It was just much more personal. And also, I did a lot of business development at CB Richard Ellis, doing commercial real estate, and doing business development in executive search was totally different. Everybody was always happy to talk to you. Clients, candidates, even prospective clients were nice to you, because I'm usually calling on CEOs and owners of businesses, and in the back of their head they might be, well, I'm going to be nice to Kip because maybe at some point I'm going to want to find a new CEO role or a new CFO role. And so I just immediately knew this was like what I was meant to do, and it was just a much better fit personality wise. But then after some time, I won all my work at that firm. I won all my own work, executed it. It wasn't like CB Richard Ellis, which had name recognition and won us a lot of work just by being a part of CB. Nobody had ever heard of the firm I was at until I introduced them to my clients. And so then kind of wised up over a little bit of time and took the leap and to be an entrepreneur and launch my own firm. And at that point in time, that was the hardest decision ever. But looking back, I've made many more difficult decisions than that. But at that point in time, just to bet on yourself and go off on your own. But it was a fantastic decision. I'm so happy I made it, and I couldn't imagine being any other way. I don't think I would be a good employee. I couldn't ever go back and work for somebody else after tasting this.
So how long into the entrepreneur journey did you know this is going well?
That's a very good question. I would say launching my firm was easier than most in that all my clients came with me. So I had work right out of the bat. So it wasn't like I was starting from zero. So it was a little bit easier, but like mentally, you're still launching your own thing. That's a good question. I mean, even though I had work right away and it grew and grew and grew, it was, and it still is. I mean, it's always a grind. It's never ending. Um, just that the entrepreneurial piece, but you get more comfortable with it, and the bigger you get. I would say the next kind of inflection point was, it was just me for the first year, and then just struggling with that. Do I want to be just me, or do I want to grow a firm? But then one of my mentors really kind of talked me through that, and I made the decision to, okay, I'm going to grow this beyond just me. Um, and so I added my first person, which is a guy that I've known forever and like trusted to the core, like the perfect first person to join me, and that was immediately just like mindset shift. Everything changed. It was so good. It was, and then since then, we had another person, I think the next year, and then four more, and then more after that, and it's kind of grown from there. And so yeah, I kind of getting back to your question, definitely when I added my first person beyond just me, I felt like we're making it. Not like we made it, because I still don't feel like we've made it. It's just a never ending thing, and now you have different goals. I mean, we want to deliver this unreasonable recruiting. We want to continue to scale the business. Um, but yeah, I mean, it maybe more than feeling like you made it, you get to the point where you're just comfortable in the unknown, and the struggle and the grind, and how the ups and downs, and the exhilaration of it all, and the doubt and the fear, and all those things. I don't want to say you get numb to it, but you just get more comfortable with it. And then you're taking on bigger things, and it's bigger problems and bigger challenges. Um, and then, we talk about different CEO roundtables, being a part of those, and learning from other leaders, and then trying to up level it, and like joining Arate, and then talking to people that are way beyond where I am, to learn the things that you don't even know, the questions you don't even know to ask. I mean, that's what's been the most fun. It's just like talking to people that are way beyond where I'm at, and just listening to them and learning, and learning what does it take to 10x your business, or 100x it, or 1,000x it with some of these people. It's a lot of fun.
No, it's all.
Yeah,
I'm really inspired. I'm really happy to hear that. Like, you built a dream team. That it's not just you. That even though it's your name on
right.
the building,
Yeah,
it's a search firm built with all stars. And perhaps
yeah,
people
it's
have
yeah.
different niches that they serve.
Uh-huh.
And that way you have a specialist and expert in each category, um, with an expertise level that, like you said, that maybe you don't have.
Right. Yeah, yeah. It's like I just have like my chief operating officer now, and she is so good, and like all the things that I just dread, and she loves to do them, and it's just so amazing. And then every time we have just like our one-on-one meetings, and I see what she's been up to, and again, we're on EOS, or Traction
Yeah.
was the book about EOS, and so she's my integrator and chief operating officer. But like her just truly embodying that integrator role, and making like all these crazy visions and goals and missions that we have, and like watching it actually be realized by someone that loves creating those processes and procedures and making it happen.
No, that's awesome.
It's amazing.
No, I'm really happy that you have that lock, to the traction model, like that symbiotic relationship between visionary leader and CEO integrator. And so obviously my natural question is, did you build that person or did you recruit them? And how did you go about recruiting your own COO?
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good question. So even back when I was doing real estate, I had a lot of clients that ran their businesses on EOS. So I'd known about it for a long time, and people just swore by it. I mean, they just absolutely lived and breathed EOS. And then, same thing in launching our firm, a lot of clients that ran on EOS. And then I made the decision that I wanted to run our firm on EOS and really take it from just this entrepreneurial, craziness, and like, let's actually run EOS and formalize things and be, professionalize the business. And so I initially had someone actually in my office with another business who was kind of going through the same journey, and she pulled the trigger before I did. And I said, well, let me just follow your lead. I'm just going to go like a month behind you and see how it goes. So she hired a fractional integrator that worked for her business, I want to say 2 days a week, maybe three. It kind of grew over time. And then I engaged the same firm for a fractional integrator for me, who actually is Stephanie, who's my COO. And so Stephanie, so initially she was fractional, and then she ended up leaving the firm she was at and working full time for another company, and then ultimately made the decision to leave there. And then I hired her to join us full time, and it's been fantastic. Yeah, so it's so it started fractional, and then, which was good, but then it was like time to, okay, we need a full time integrator to really kind of grow and scale this thing and professionalize things and get all these processes and procedures and things in place, and get to the point where, rather than working in the business, you're working on the business, but really working on the business. So you have someone that's, day to day working in the business. So that was a big step, but a very, very good one. And I mean, I wholeheartedly would endorse EOS to anybody, any entrepreneur. Um, it's absolutely transformed our business, and we've got a lot of clients that in the first year or two, I mean, they literally 10x their business switching on to EOS. And just getting the right people in the right seats is so important. And veteran business people understand that. But as you're an entrepreneur and you're just figuring it out, it is so critical. And, you talk about us having a dream team. I mean, we've really tried to clearly define our core values so that when we're interviewing people to join the team, the decision's really driven by our core values. In fact, I mean, the first person I hired, I'd known forever, but when we decided, for different roles, instead of hiring one person at a time, we hired two, and as Andy Frisella would say, if you need one, you really need two. So we've really embodied that. But I started to recruit people for our team. I mean, leading with our core values. Like, these are our core values. Here's the role we're recruiting for, but here's our core values. And it, as you can imagine, I mean, it attracted the right people, repelled the wrong people, and that has made it so much easier to really find the right people to join our team that, from the first time they may have encountered KIP Search, it was our core values that they saw first before they knew anything about the role or the job or our company. So that I would encourage people to do that. Really lead with those core values when you're trying to recruit anybody. I mean, whether it's a totally entry level person or it's CEO of your company or a chairman for your board. I mean, just lead with those core values, because that will get the right people at least in the conversation.
Right, and that very well said. And I would only simply add, that the core values need to be true to you. Don't copy and paste from some other website and say that's good enough, because you
Right.
need to be able to know them and repeat them, and rally the team to say, hey, this is what we're doing every day, right? Yes, right. let's go. That's it. We're taking that same energy that we, like you said, we learned from Andy when, when we met at First Form, right? And just seeing that excellence in action. Like there's no
Right.
excuses. And if someone's weak, you're like, pull them aside, be like, all right, what do you need to get stronger? Right. And and this is where I'm going with this, like fitness, right? You're a very strong, fit, and handsome guy. What's it take to be a leader? Because and be on top of your game, self-care, health-care, fitness, mind, like everything. Because I think only recent poll came out, maybe less than 20% of executives are not fit.
Less than 20% are what?
Not fit. Like like the
Oh,
80/20 rule, more or less, right?
yeah.
That 80% of high performers are fit or more, and it's probably trending towards 90 and higher. Because if a person who we don't you know a former McDonald's CEO died of a heart attack, right? It's not a good endorsement for the company, the product, anything, right? Because you start asking, well, was it where they just didn't invest in themselves? Is the food bad? Is it not healthy? Right? You want a leader who's sharp and fit and doesn't die at 60.
Mm-hmm.
You want them to work well as far as they want. I mean, like Buffett, like Munger. Munger went 99, right? I mean, you
It's
know what I mean?
amazing.
You're still in your peak prime state, and
Uh-huh.
I mean, I worked as in a season for Robert Half, and let me share real quick that how I
Yes.
became a recruiter.
Yeah.
I got
Super interested to hear it. Yeah.
so I got a phone call. I was at Aramark as an accountant. I was really bored. But I get a phone call out of nowhere. This guy Gary, who's the regional director, and he's like, "Oh, I have these wonderful opportunities for you," and this, and I just flipped the script right away, and I said, "I really like what you're doing."
Huh.
He said, "Would you like to come in?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, when works for you?" I said, "How about tomorrow?"
Nice.
He said, "I like your sense of urgency." And then I went in, and sure enough, there was a position available for a job, right? All commission, right? And to manage other accountants, financial analysts. With no leadership experience except my just grit and willingness to show up the next day in a suit, right?
Huh?
I get that opportunity, and I get to place people and put people in roles and stand behind the product and pitch somebody on the phone saying, "Hey, here's a great candidate. Here's their qualifications. Where can they serve well on your team?" Right? And these positions were more project. But in one instance, back then we had like the Fin 48, Sarbanes Oxley was very big. A lot of companies, Fast 109. Arthur Anderson had sung, so did Enron and Tyco. And I used to be a consultant, so I saw it from that side, and now I see it from the placement side. And they wanted a really strong person who has done like financial regulatory work and maybe kind of audit organizations to see for any kind of malfeasance. Okay, like a forensic accountant. And so I found somebody with the experience. Awesome, great. Shows up. Wonderfully qualified. Aced the interview, and then they called me and they said, "How old is he?" And he was 65. And I said, "Is that important?" I said, "Because you told me you only need somebody for a project. Are you looking to hire them? Or do you just want them for the project? Please let me know." "Well, we just want them for the project." I said, "Well, this guy will show up early. He'll get the job done. He's not going to be on apps all day. He's going to be focused and get his job done. That's it. He's not going to worry about who he's going to date tonight or what's for dinner or what's on social media. He wants to do a job and do it well and honorably. So what difference does it make how old he is?" Right? I mean, I imagine you place people in all decades of their life.
Right.
I mean, where does age is it a factor in some companies or is it a non-factor in other companies?
I mean, the honest answer is this is true for most questions like that. I mean, it really depends. I mean, if someone is later part of their career, I mean, we would ask them. I mean, how much longer do you want to keep working? And if someone's 65 and they're like, I can't imagine not working this hard for the next 10 years. I mean, that's a totally different person than someone that says, well, I really want to be done in 2 years. So it's just being open and transparent and honest, and then sharing that with the client. So yeah, and I think again, if someone's of a certain age but they're super healthy and fit, and that's part of their lifestyle. I mean, that person and they say they want to work for another 10 years or however long. That's probably a good indicator versus someone that's just health wise seems like they're in rough shape and says the same thing. So I mean, there's a lot of factors that go in, and you can't ultimately, it's illegal to make decisions based on people's age. But it's just being open and transparent, and like we can ask a lot of questions that like companies can't ask. Um, and people, I mean, if you ask people an honest question, direct, I mean, they usually will give you an honest, direct answer.
Right, because like when somebody comes in and what's the 5-year plan, and if the candidate's like, oh, I only want to be here for a year and then move on to something else,
Oh, yeah.
that's not a right fit for an opportunity.
Right.
I just want to take a 1 year left, kind of like an athlete, like a star athlete. You put in 10 years in one team, and then the last year or two, you just want to take a big check on a team that may not go that far, but somehow needs you. But
Yeah.
you don't want to play that way. You want long-standing relationship. You want to know that you place a candidate in a place where they belong, and a place that welcomes them and welcomes their contributions too, right? Because sometimes when you enter a new environment, they're not always nice to the outsider. They see a new entry person as a threat in some climates. So you've done an excellent job, you know, following your calling. And so I really want to commend you on that. And you know, try to speak to other people, like how to find their calling. Like what does that process look like? To you, or maybe to your kids, or and your family, like to help find their calling. Like what kind of question do people need to ask themselves?
Well, as you can imagine, when people find out what it is that I do and we do, a lot of candidates just reach out. I'll have conversations with them, and while our business is companies looking for people as opposed to people looking for roles, I always try to talk to people. And again, in my old firm, they would never talk to candidates, which I thought was just wrong. I mean, you can't spend all day. I mean, you have to like do business, but I try to talk to people, and I just say this is kind of a pay it forward model. I just want to help open doors for you and get opportunities in front of you so you can tell your story, hear an organization story, see if there might be a fit. And if you put enough good in the world, good things come back around, not necessarily specifically from that person or that company you introduce them to, but just in general. Um, and then the thing I tell them, if they don't really know what they want for their next role, which is often the case when someone's making a move or considering it, I just say spend a little bit of time and think, if you could paint the perfect role at the perfect company, or maybe it's 3 or it's 5 totally different ones, what would that be? And then let's laser focus and try to find that. And we can always broaden the search, but why not look for exactly what you think would get you the most excited and fired up in the morning again, or maybe it's a couple different ones, and look for that. And then also, if nothing else, it's just a good mental exercise to go through with yourself to figure out what really excites you. And people love that, and they come back with all kinds of things that they never even thought about. So that's usually what I tell people. um, and as far as like kids and people in school, you really want to tell them to, a lot of times they don't know because they're young, but to try to pursue things you are really interested in rather than trying to chase the money. I do tell my kids and all their friends, I'm like, blockchain and Web3. I mean, that is the future. Everything is going to be on the blockchain. I mean, that in AI. I mean, everything is going to be on the blockchain. I mean, every real estate transaction, to speak to, I mean, it's all going to be there. There are going to be no closers or middlemen. Like, it is going to be, I want to buy a house from you. We buy it directly. It's on the blockchain. The deal's done. So I tell them take as many blockchain, Web3, crypto, any AI, all those classes, so at least you can understand it. Whether you end up pursuing an opportunity there, but that is the future if you want to look where the future is. But find things you're generally interested in and excited about, and try to pursue opportunities there, um, rather than trying to just chase money. I mean, there's so many people that, take law school as an example. People that went to law school and become a lawyer, or go to medical school and become a doctor, and they end up making a lot of money, but they're absolutely miserable. And then you wake up when you're 40 years old or 50, and you're like, I did this because my parents want me to do this, and I just had my head down, and I am so miserable. And I've talked to so many candidates or people, especially in like financial services or law, lawyers, or people that are in financial services, that are making a lot of money, but they are bored out of their minds. It's not interesting. It's not motivating. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And they want to do something totally different. They want to get totally out of financial services or totally out of law. Um, that's a tough place to be in. Well, you can do that. Uh, my advice to young people would be like, try to just pursue things that you're really interested in, rather than trying to chase the money or what your parents tell you should do, or what you think your parents want you to do. Um, Obviously, parents have good intentions, and they have a broader perspective on life than kids, and they want them to be stable, and but ultimately, these kids got to pursue what's going to make them happy and fulfilled in life, because they number one person they have to like get the approval of is themselves, not their parents, or not their grandparents.
Right. I think that's where life goes, like this full circle, where we go from people pleasing to pleasing ourselves. Right. Like, you know, looking in the mirror and like being so self-aware that you understand like what your needs are and where you need to go with them. Because following that standard formula of you grow up to either be a doctor, lawyer, or failure, like is very
Yeah,
short-sighted, right? There's only
yeah,
so many doctors and so many lawyers, and if you ask them honestly, with all the level of regulatory stuff that they have to deal with on a constant basis, electronic medical records, lawsuits, you're trying to just do a good job and you can't stand out. Or if you're a lawyer, like how many ethical things do you have to walk through every
yeah,
day? Where
yeah.
in your business, hey, I just want to be tried and true. I want to vet my candidates to make sure they actually worked where they say they worked, right? the, and if you're out of work, that's okay too, but let it not be forever.
Uh-huh.
Let it be for a short reason or season, and then put them back
Yeah.
in, playing. Have you ever counseled or coached someone to say, you know what, this job is a pay cut, but it leads to a greater future?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, people are motivated by all kinds of different things. I mean, while it's hard to take a job that pays less generally, I mean, when people, it happens a lot, and this is a little different than your question, where
Sure.
someone's senior in their career, they've had success, and they want to do something with purpose, and they're really not motivated by money anymore. I mean, they want to get paid, but like they really want to do something with purpose. Um, but a lot of times, people can get that earlier in their career too, where they just really want some purpose and something they really believe in, or there really is, maybe it's a couple steps back, but with a potential for 10 steps forward to really have a career path, or you're in a growing industry. Um, again, I think of like blockchain or Web3, like pivoting over there. You might not be in there. It might be a little bit of a, you're in a startup environment now, but like, geez, there's huge opportunity there. So yeah, and I try to just tell people, I don't want, I try to help people figure out for themselves what they want, rather than tell anybody what they want or what they should do. Here's some options, but like it really has to be a conversations with yourself, because you're going to have to live with whatever the decision is or the consequences are. Um,
Well, that's lovely. It's an
Yeah.
introspective process, right? Of discovering. I think a lot of times in today's overactive, busy society, we don't sit still with our thoughts. And, a lot of the leaders in our circle inspire us to journal, to follow
Hmm.
the likes of the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, who kept a journal and it was kind of like your soundboard. Um,
Yes.
when you start reflecting on, like in your case, your vision and where you want to take your firm in the next this year. Where do you see it going that we're is completely achievable but still a stretch?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, there's so much to that question. Um, I think there's real opportunity for us. I mean, I'm really focused on like 10x thinking for our business. Like, what are the 2 or 3 things we can do to totally transform the value we're providing to clients and what we can do in our business rather than just making these incremental things to, to improve. So I mean that includes looking at totally different business lines or different offerings we can have with our clients. Looking at you know not merger but acquisition opportunities of other search firms. There's so many people in all different industries where maybe it's baby boomers ready to retire, but they don't really have a successor within their firm or in their business. There's so many businesses that are going to change hands or just disappear. So I just really being cognizant of that, looking for those opportunities. Um, we have one particular that's kind of bubbled to the surface here, like different offering that I think is going to be disruptive to the market, which is where I'm so excited about. And I again I give huge kudos to my COO that really has made this happen. We were just talking about that earlier today, so that's like super on my mind. Um, but I mean, you talk about the way for people to make more money is you need to create more value or impact more people or do both, hopefully. So we're looking for those opportunities. How can we create more value to every single one of our clients, our existing clients, future clients, every time we interact with a client? How can we add more value? And that really goes to this unreasonable recruiting too. But then how can we impact more people? Whether it's more clients, client companies for our firm, or people, true people like candidates. Like, how can we make more impact on both sides there, and really focus on what are innovative ways that we can do that? And obviously, you want to make money doing it, but how can we find those opportunities that are untapped and disruptive to the marketplace in a positive, good way that again is really adding value and helping. Go back to our why for our organization, helping organizations and individuals create impact and abundance. How can we do that in an innovative and kind of exponential way?
Wow. So I mean, you're helping the garden bloom, right? Like in full color, right? Because if there's any gap in the ranks, then people have to start picking up more work. That's that's not always the best fit for them,
Hmm.
right? Like how many times do you see like the chairman has to put on the CEO belt again,
Yes.
right? But that's temporary. They can
Uh-huh.
do it, and they probably do it exceptionally well. And maybe sometimes they're the best fit for the job. Like um, I was going to say Bob Iger, but I don't think he's a good example anymore. But yeah, there's some people who fall from grace, right? And sometimes you
Uh-huh.
steer the company in the wrong direction, and there's time for a new leader. And when they walk in, you know, with a humble alpha mindset, right, as opposed to like this Viking warrior who's out to cut heads, right? At some point they do need to assess and right size the ship because you want to allocate your resources properly.
Mhm.
And I think in the current climate, what can you say in terms of reorganizations? That a lot of companies, like you mentioned earlier, AI, and we all use it, and blockchain. I definitely would be asking you questions later because I only have a little bit of these altcoins and whatever coins. Um, I think I might have lost a wallet once and I found it. Like, it's this thing where it's the new future, right? that we create our own currency, right? You created your own company. That's a cash flowing vehicle, right? And at some point, would you ever recruit someone to replace you at the firm, or will you always be at the forefront and center of the company?
Very good question. I mean, the answer is yes. I mean, again, things change over time, but like, so I can just focus on bigger, more strategic, higher level things, replace people behind you. Um, and I really want to, I mean, constantly grow this firm beyond me. I mean, it's called KIP Search. Yes, that's my name, but KIP Search is not me. It is our team, uh, who are exceptional, and many of which have skills totally different and far beyond what I do. And so it's not about me at all, even though that's the name. Um, yeah, and it's like when you flip the script on the Robert Half guy. I mean, if amazing people like approached me or us to join our team, and there is no like opening, but they're like truly incredible. Like we will find a place to put them and get them on the bus to like bring their skill set. And I mean, that's what excites me. Like, there's a lot of people, that I just kind of met in life that I'm like, someday you're going to be a part of our team. I know the timing's not right now. There's no pressure at all, but like, just so you know, like, we want you when the time's right. I don't know what that looks like, but like, we want you. Like, you are a core value fit. You're a part of KIP Search. You just don't know it yet. Again, no pressure, but like, and I've literally told that to like multiple people. Like, you are gonna be here one day.
I
So
love it.
we will be patient,
Well,
but
it's not just that. I've met consultants, right, when I worked at Deloitte, and show me their outlook of all these different companies that say you have a place here. Meaning, the moment, like as you just shared, the moment you're not happy with wherever you are, or you feel like you're ready to jump, I got a place for you, because you know that they fit, and you're going to put them in a place that's going to help them shine.
uh-huh.
That's
Right.
that's really inspiring.
Yeah.
Wow. Kip, this has been a really awesome time. I really want to thank you. Um, any closing thoughts on, like, speak to an executive right now who's kind of like on the fence between staying where they are and looking for what's, the greener grass on the other side. Um, you know, or maybe the aspiring executive who wants to be in the C-suite one day. Share one tip on, you know, what excellence means to you and how they can kind of embody it in their pursuits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say to have an internal conversation with yourself about. I talked about, you know, just advice to candidates. Like, if you could paint the perfect role at the perfect company, or maybe it's starting your own, like, what would that be? And go find it, because it is out there. If you can conceive it in your mind, it is out there, or you can create it. But just spend that time with yourself, really thinking deeply about what would most fulfill you, and go find it. And it's like we talk about the reticular activating system. Like, when you get a new car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere, and it's like, well, I can't believe this. And they were always there, but now your brain sees it. It's just like, if you can have that focus on, what is this perfect role, or again, multiple ones, they're there, but now it's on your radar. Now your brain's going to attract that. You're going to find it. You're going to start telling people about this role that you have in mind. People that might know about that. I mean, you're going to attract that by putting it out there and talking about it and thinking about it. But the first step is you have to spend that time with yourself to have the focus to figure out what is it that really motivates you and fires you up. And nothing's perfect. I mean, the grass is not always greener. It's never as green as you think, but there are things, there are better culture fits for you. There's better core value fits. If you're a technologist, I mean, there's a technology that is on the cutting edge. I mean, a lot of these, you know, Web 1 people moved to Web 2, social media. Now the Web 2 people are moving to Web 3. I mean, they want the next challenge, the next innovation. They want to be on the bleeding edge of technology. I mean, just figuring out what it is that really motivates you and excites you. But you got to start with yourself.
Wow. Well, that's deep. Thank you. Thank you, Kip. I think a lot of people have like wonderful takeaways from this. And tell us again, if you would, how people can find you, your company, um, online or on the phone.
Yeah, so KIP Search is the name of the company, and then Kip Knippel is my name, and so I'm on all the social media platforms. So is KIP Search, and it's my name, Kip Knippel, for my personal stuff. It's KIP Search for all our business stuff. So just put that into Google, and you'll find us, or into whatever social media platform it is. You can find me, and I just want to thank you. This has been such an honor, and I just love. Demetri, I just love your presence, and like you talk about the Stoics, just it's almost like you're just in this Zen meditative state, and the way you ask the questions and listen. And every time we're together, like in person, it's the same thing. I love talking to you and listening to you, and I like your energy is
Oh,
it's infectious and attractive and
thank you.
comforting.
I
So
really appreciate
thank you.
that. So I mean, let this be my job interview in case a C-level position comes available and you need someone with my skill set and you want to
There you go.
call me, I will take the call and I may be open to the opportunity.
All right, perfect.
And on a closing note, magical moments happen all the time. And I remember being in the lobby of the Ritz Carlton with you, and we were just having a talk on life. And out of nowhere comes Ed Milet,
Yeah.
our teacher, right? And his nice his Ray Bans. He's got his phone. He looks really like he's having a really good conversation. And he walks right through the lobby. Okay, he's busy, but he stops. And he turns around and he looks at us and he says, "Hey guys, I'm on a really important call, but I'll come right back. And I just want to let you know I noticed you." I went right to you and I said, "Kip," I said, "No homo here, but that made our nipples hard, didn't it?" And you're like,
I, I remember that whole situation. Absolutely. And I remember you
yeah.
saying that. Now you say that.
Comedy's in the timing, right? I mean, you make it. Like I said, my name is Demetri Stakias. People mispronounce it all the time, and I never correct them. But you make it a point to say that the N is not silent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's from years of abuse. And I mean, yeah, with the name Kip Knippel, I mean, I'm just so used to it. It's like I just say it off the bat because I know people are thinking it. It's yeah. It's like yeah. It's second nature now. I don't even like think of it. It's just
I love it.
part of the
Well,
conversation.
if you're ever looking for more acronyms, I look at Kip behind you and I said, key indicators of performance.
Ooh,
Yeah, if you're ever looking for a rebrand, that's it. Just
nice.
drop the, instead of KPI, it's KIP. Well, thanks again for being a guest on the Relief Podcast, and
Thank you.
would love to have you back maybe in 6 months to kind of give us a picture of how you see things going and hiring trends for the C-suite.
Oh, for sure. I would be honored. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
All right, thank you, Kip.